Mamo Beshashwati Tanu. Aham Vai Sarva Bhutani Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamo Beshashwati Tanu. Aham Vai Sarva Bhutani Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamo Beshashwati Tanu. Matajis. Aham Vai Sarva Bhutani Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamo Beshashwati Tanu. Aham Vai Sarvi Bhutani Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamo Beshashwati Tanu. Aham Vai Sarvi Bhutani Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamo Beshashwati Tanu. Aham, I, why indeed, Sarva Bhutani, expanded in different forms of living entities. Bhuta Atma, the super soul of all living entities, the supreme director and enjoyer of them. Bhuta Bhavanaha, the cause for the manifestation of all living entities. Shabda Brahma, the transcendental sound vibration. The Hare Krishna mantra. Param Brahma, the supreme absolute truth. Mama, my. Ube, both, namely the form of sound and the form of spiritual identity. Shashvati, eternal. Tanu, two bodies. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. All living entities, moving and non-moving, are my expansions and are separate from me. I am the super soul of all living beings who exist because I manifest them. I am the form of the transcendental vibrations like Omkara and Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and I am the supreme absolute truth. These two forms of mine, namely the transcendental sound and the eternally blissful spiritual form of the deity, are my eternal forms. They are not material. Purport. The science of devotional service has been instructed by Narada and Angira to Chitraketu. Now, because of Chitraketu's devotional service, he has seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing devotional service, one advances step by step, and when one is on the platform of love of Godhead, Prema Pumarto Mahan, he sees the Supreme Lord at every moment. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, when one engages in devotional service 24 hours a day, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam, in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master, his devotional service becomes more and more pleasing. Then, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is within the core of everyone's heart, speaks to the devotee, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayanti Te. Chitraketu Maharaj was first instructed by his gurus, Angira and Narada, and now, having followed their instructions, he has came to the stage of seeing the Supreme Lord face to face. Therefore, the Lord is now instructing him in the essence of knowledge. The essence of knowledge is that there are two kinds of vastu, or substances. One is real and the other, being illusory or temporary, is sometimes called non-factual. One must consider these two kinds of existence. The real tattva or truth consists of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, Vadanti tat tatvata vidas tatvam yaj gyanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The absolute truth exists eternally in three features. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan combined are the substance. The categories of emanations from the non-substance are two: activities and forbidden activities, karma and vikarma. Karma refers to the pious life of material activities performed during the day and the mental activities of dreams at night. These are more or less desired activities. Vikarma, however, refers to the illusory activities, which are something like the will of the wisp. These are activities that have no meaning. For example, modern scientists imagine that life can be produced from chemical combinations, and they are very busy trying to prove this in laboratories throughout the world, although no one in history has been able to produce the substance of life from material combinations. Such activities are called vikarma. All material activities are actually illusory, and progress in illusion is simply a waste of time. These illusory activities are called akarya, and one must learn of them from the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:17. Karmanyo karmanyo hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam kana karmano gati. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. One must learn of this directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, as Anantadev, is instructing King Chitraketu because of the advanced stage of devotional service he achieved by following the instructions of Narada and Angira. Herein it is said, Aham vai sarvabhutani. The Lord is everything, sarvabhutani, including the living entities and the material or physical elements. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7:4-5, Bhumir apo nalovayu kham mano buddhir evacha ahankara itiyam me bhina prakritir ashtada aparayam itastvanyam prakritin vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yaedam dharyate jagat. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these eight comprise my separated material energies. Besides this inferior nature, Almighty Armed Arjuna, there is superior energy of mine, which consists of the living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. The living entity tries to lord it over the material nature of physical elements, but both the physical elements and the spiritual spark are energies emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord says, Aham vai sarva bhutani. I am everything, just as heat and light emanating from fire, these two energies, the physical elements and the living entities, emanate from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord says, Aham vai sarva bhutani. I expand the physical and spiritual categories. Again, the Lord, as super soul, guides the living entities who are conditioned by the physical atmosphere. Therefore, he is called Bhutatma, Bhutabhavanaha. He gives the living entity the intelligence with which to improve his position so that he may return home back to Godhead. Or if he does not want to go back to Godhead, the Lord gives him the intelligence with which to improve his material position. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanavishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. From within, the Lord gives the living being the intelligence with which to work. Therefore, the previous verse said that after the Supreme Personality of Godhead endeavors, our endeavors begin. We cannot independently endeavor or act upon anything. Therefore, the Lord is Bhuta Bhavanaha. Another specific feature of the knowledge given in this verse is that Shabda Brahma is also a form of the Supreme Lord. In his eternal blissful form, Lord Krishna is accepted by Arjuna as Param Brahma. A living entity in the conditioned stage accepts something illusory as substantial. This is called Maya or Avidya, ignorance. Therefore, according to the Vedic knowledge, one must become a devotee, and one must then distinguish between avidya and vidya, which are elaborately explained in the Ishopanishad. When one is actually on the platform of vidya, he can personally understand the personality of Godhead in his forms like those of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, and Sankarsana. The Vedic knowledge is described as the breathing of the Supreme Lord, and activities begin on the basis of Vedic knowledge. Therefore, the Lord says that when He endeavors or breathes, the material universe comes into existence, and various activities gradually developed. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu, I am the syllable Om in all the Vedic mantras. Vedic knowledge begins with the vibrations of the transcendental sound Pranava, Omkara. The same transcendental sound is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Abhinatvam namino. There is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord Himself. One more time. Yes?
Puji, a small introduction I'll just give about yourself today.
Mm,
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji is Shyam Ras Prabhu. He's disciple of Indradyumna Maharaj and has been studying in Bhaktivedanta Academy Mayapur for 12 years. Yeah, and he's in the movement for more than 20 years. So let us welcome His Grace Shyam Krishna Prabhu, Shyam Ras Prabhu, sorry, to GEV by loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prabhuji. I'll just say a few prayers before we start. You can repeat after me. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padakayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. We are actually just visiting. We are just for a few days here. And devotees kindly ask us to speak a little bit how much we can with our little realization. But we will try to say a few words about this beautiful verse today. And we had a long purport. I hope you stayed focused on the purport. It was a little bit long. But yeah, we will try to speak a little bit about this. But before I would like to speak about this particular verse. Actually, we are coming from Rishikesh. In Rishikesh, we are trying to establish some preaching center, Bhakti Yoga Center, and in Rishikesh they have some for yogis. They have this class called drop-in yoga class. You can just drop in, and you can do your yoga. You don't have to follow the whole the whole thing what they have. So I feel as we came here, we came in a drop-in Bhagavatam. At least me. I just came and you're already discussing about Chitraketu and all these things, and I just dropped in. So I was thinking I would like to zoom out a little bit, mostly for myself, to understand what's going on, what is this verse actually saying here, what is actually fitting in Bhagavatam. Because sometimes it is said it's difficult to see the forest out of trees, you know? So sometimes you have to zoom out to see the whole picture, and then it's more clear. So because I just dropped in this middle of this verse, I would like to just a little bit go outside, so just for bigger appreciation. Basically now in Bhagavatam, you're finishing 6th canto and you are going into another in the 7th canto. And as we all know, Srimad Bhagavatam has 12 cantos. And there is a progression to Bhagavatam. How you study Bhagavatam, slowly you purify your heart, and then you can come to the highest pastime, lila, in 10th canto of Krishna, actually. But there is also progression, how they're explaining, Acharyas are explaining, Bhagavatam is divided practically in two parts. One 6th canto, and the other another 6 cantos. And now you're just in the middle when it's overlapping. You are going to the 7th canto. And basically in first 6 cantos, through stories, Bhagavatam is establishing actually what is devotional service and what is not devotional service. And they're explaining how you can engage things to become devotional service. So if you have any material desires, how you can make it, engage it in devotional service. We have a story about Kardama Muni, who was like a brahmachari. He had this desire to get married, and then it was explained how he could do it properly and stayed nicely situated. After we had a story of Dhruva Maharaj, who had an amazing desire that any one of us cannot have greater desire. He wanted a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma, which is impossible. But somehow or other, it was very materialistic desire. But although he had this desire, he engaged it in devotional service and he became a pure devotee. So in these first 6 cantos, it's explained more what is devotional service and what devotional service is not. And now in the second part of Srimad Bhagavatam, the other 6 parts, it's a different emphasis. Through Bhagavatam, we are learning actually, okay, we accepted devotional service, we are not devotees, but there is grades to devotional service. There is beginner level of devotional service. All devotional service, whatever you connect with Krishna, it becomes perfect. But they can be more perfect and they can be most perfect. So now they are starting to explain that actually primary is always devotion. And then how you express this devotion is actually, this is devotional service. And this is secondary. And primary is always devotion. And that's why this story is coming here, that other Puranas, actually, when you check other literature, in Vedic literature, they will always say, oh, this is a special Vritra Sura pastime, which other Puranas, they don't want to deal too much with these things. Because it's kind of, it's difficult to understand if you're not devotee. How can Indra, who is like he's devotee, and he has like a asuric mentality. He has materialistic desires. And Vritra Asura, who is actually a great demon, he's actually devotee, and he is giving devotional knowledge about bhakti. He's teaching Indra. So most of Puranas, they don't want to deal with this. But only Bhagavad Purana is dealing with this because it's trying to establish, after Vyasadeva wrote all the Vedas and everything, at the end, he wrote this Mahabhagavad Purana, where he's trying to establish pure devotional service. And that's why at the end of 6 cantos, now we are going into this story of Vritra Sura, where it's explained actually that first we learn that devotional service is activities. That is like you engage your body in certain form. And now it's more emphasis, actually devotional service is your consciousness. It's your devotion. What's the quality of your consciousness? This will determine the quality of devotional service. You can see this is not something new. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is doing the same exact teaching to Arjuna. First, he's explaining how you can connect yourself to me. He's explaining the form, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. And then after these 6 chapters, he's going more into consciousness. He's explaining what is proper devotional consciousness. So this is actually how, when you're trying to teach something, this is a proper method. Krishna is always using this. And you can see the Bhagavatam is based on the same principles like this. First, you establish yourself nicely in sadhana. You establish everything, like devotees many times. You go in temple. First thing, they will teach you how to keep yourself clean, how to, how to do all the services, how to go around Tulsi, how to do all these things, and it's all external. And then after some time, we as devotees, how much time? You need like 3-4 weeks? Okay, let's say 3 months, and you become very expert in these things. You can go for Mangala Arati, you can do puja, you can offer Tulasi Arati, everything, numbers and everything. But then, and you were completely absorbed because it was something new to you. But now, when it becomes not anymore new, it becomes mechanical. And now is the time, if devotees don't go more deeper with consciousness into devotion, their mind goes into politics. Their mind, they are doing this with body, but mind is on material platform. So this is the time when we should actually go deeper into our consciousness and how we are doing this to please Krishna. We are doing these activities to please Krishna. So this is the gradual progress in our devotional life, and the same pattern is being given in Bhagavatam, this progression. So yes, actually just a little bit background story about Chitraketu, you know? You all know you're coming regular for Bhagavatam, but I'm dropping, so I just wanted to make it little so we can understand what is this verse fitting in all this in all this story. So basically, as we saw, Vritrasura, he was a great demon, and he was meant to kill Indra. But at the end, Indra killed him. But before Indra killed him, Vritrasura gave amazing knowledge about bhakti. He opened his heart, and we can learn so many valuable lessons about bhakti. And he thought and then Indra was confused. How is this possible? I'm supposed to be a devotee. I'm supposed to be a representative of the Lord. And now I'm actually a demon. I have Asuric mentality. And this demon, he is teaching me. How is this possible? And he was confused. How such a great devotee can be born in the body of a demon? And then now we are coming to the story of Chitraketu. Because in previous life, Vritrasura, he was a great king, Chitraketu. And it is explained this king Chitraketu, he was a great king and he wanted to have a son. He had lots of wives, but he couldn't conceive a son. So he was feeling always unhappy. And one time, Angira, like a sage from higher planetary systems, he came to his palace and he asked him, why, my king, is everything okay with you? Is everything fine? And he said this, I have this big problem. I'm feeling not satisfied. The reason for this is because I cannot have a son. I really want to have a son. And then he gave him a blessing and he said, okay, you will have a son, but this son will give you lots of happiness and he will give you at the same time lots of, how you say, sorrow. Yeah, sorrow. And then he didn't focus so much on sorrow. He just saw this happiness and he was just focused on this side of happiness. And then when the sage left, he gave him this blessing. And then soon, Chitraketu, he conceived a child with his first wife. But how it is, other ladies, queens, who were also his wives, they became envious because of this. Because they also wanted to have a child, And they were feeling he was spending more time with his child and with his queen, and they were feeling neglected. And then they couldn't hold this anymore, this emotion, being neglected. And then out of this, they decided to poison and kill the baby. So they poisoned this child, and the child died. Small baby died. And then Chitraketu, when he came and saw this horrible scene, he was devastated. He fell on the ground. He couldn't function. He was completely lost. He couldn't function. And then at that time, again, Angira, sage, and Narada Muni came. And then this time, actually, it was explained. First time, the sage, Angira, he was also a devotee, great devotee, and he could deliver knowledge of devotional service. But the problem was that Chitraketu was not ready. He was not ready. He was still attached to material world. But now when he became completely morose and detached, now he could receive science of devotional service. So one thing to note here is that not the vairagya is like that bhakti is dependent on vairagya. It's nothing like this. Just the thing is that if you want to receive something in your hand, first you have to have empty hands. That's the whole thing of jnana and vairagya. It's not that by knowledge or renunciation you can become devotee. It's nothing like this. But just because your focus is not more on material life, then now you can more easily focus on spiritual message. That's a very important thing, because sometimes we can think that these qualities are actually, bhakti. Because we can see many people who are like going to liberation, they're not devotees, and they have lots of vairagya, they have lots of knowledge, but this is not devotional. Similarly, sometimes we can see people like they are vegetarians. It's a very good quality, but they are not necessarily devotees. But devotees, automatically they are vegetarians. So this is side effect of devotion, vairagya and jnana. This is not bhakti itself. This is a very important thing in this context to understand. So here, when he was detached from all this, then he could receive this knowledge. And then in this point, Narada Muni started to give him instructions about bhakti. And because his heart was actually ready to receive this, like sometimes you have this soil, which has to be like, how you say, mm, fertile. Yeah. And then if you put a seed, it will grow. So before, because he was so much focused on material desires, his heart was dry for Bhakti Lata seed. It couldn't grow. But now, because everything was, he was frustrated so much, now the seed could go inside. That's a very interesting thing, actually. Frustration and suffering is actually, there is a small window whenever we are like this, and then bhakti, we can focus on spiritual knowledge. So that's why Krishna is saying, four people, they come to me, so mostly all of us is some frustration. And when you're in this time of frustration, there's a small window, gap, before Maya again covers us. So in this small window, if we can connect with devotees, then bhakti can grow. Yeah. There's also one discussion with Yudhishthir Maharaj and Narada Muni. They were doing some yagya, and Yudhishthir was saying how in the future, in Kali Yuga, there will be mlechas and yavanas. They will not follow Vedic culture. So it will be very difficult for them to become devotees. But actually, Yudhishthir's, Narada Muni's point was, no, bhakti is completely independent. So there is no difference. So those who are following Vedic culture, they have advantage and they have disadvantage. And those who are following Mlecha culture, they have their advantage and disadvantage. And he gave analogy, just like now, we have this, we are doing this, they were doing fire sacrifice. We are doing this fire sacrifice. And if you put ghee and you put a little bit of ghee, the fire, it will burn very, very nice. So people who are following Vedic culture, they're living in Sattva Guna. So the problems of material life, they are minimized to the minimum. So frustration is not so much. And the advantage of this is actually they are very pious. So whenever some sage comes or something, they greet him very nicely. They will listen to him and everything like this. But disadvantage is because material life is actually the best that you can get in this situation, because they are situated in Sattva Guna, everything is pious. They will not take it so seriously. And he was saying, but mlechas and yavanas, if I take the same ghee and I pour on the fire, what will happen? The fire will go out, you know? So he was saying, because they are not following no restrictions in sense gratification, they are doing this without rules and regulations, then all the time, many times they are being frustrated. So in this frustration, it's very easy because they're so unhappy. It's easy when someone comes, if they are in this frustrated situation, to accept spiritual knowledge. But if they are happy, if some sage comes, they don't have respect. They don't have a culture to receive a sadhu. They don't even know how to recognize a sadhu. So this is disadvantage. So from a material point of view, bhakti is completely independent, has nothing to do with these things. But of course, it's always better to follow Vedas, to always follow piety and Vedic, because in this way, there's a more chance that you will become devotee, because you will have more options, more, how you say, opportunities to come in contact with pure devotees than if you are like completely like living like an animal. But his point was, yeah, bhakti is independent. We have to know this. We should not think that any of our qualities or anything like this, that now we are devotees because of this. No, it's just mercy. It's just mercy that we received. Yes, so basically he was so like in frustration that he could receive this message of Narada Muni. And now Narada Muni started to explain special prayers. It was called, if I Mahavidya, something like this, Mahavidya prayers to Lord Narayan. And he gave him these special prayers. And Chitraketu, actually, yeah, even before this, yeah, Narada gave a special blessing to this child who was dead, and the child came to life, And then he started to explain to all his attachments were gone because the child was saying, "You are saying you are my father, you are saying you are my mother, but I don't understand. I had so many mothers and fathers through so many different bodies." He was not attached, he was liberated soul at that point. And then Chitraketu realized, okay, this all family relationship, everything is temporary. It's not worth to focus, you know. All my these desires, they were all gone. Yeah. And then when he was ready for this, he got this from Narada Muni, these Narayan mantras, these special prayers. And then because he was very sincere, he started to chant these prayers very sincerely. He was completely renounced and he was just focused with full devotion and heart to these Narayan uh, mantras, Narayan prayers. And very soon he got perfection. First perfection is actually that he got a position as a king of Vidyadharas. Vidyadharas are on celestial plane. They are like in Bhuvarloka. They are basically Gandharvas and Siddha Charanas. They are living there, and they're actually whenever is some yaga or something, they are coming. They are playing instruments. They are beautiful dance, beautiful singing. So he was king of Vidyadharas of this planet. And then first result out of this mantra, he got material benefit. You know, like for instance, also sometimes we are worried if we start spiritual life, or there will be nothing, materially. But here it's explained. No, it's not like this. First thing that you start, actually, all auspiciousness comes in your life. Your mind becomes peaceful. All these negative things, they are removed away. Even on gross level, diseases, all these things, they are being pushed away from us. So we should never worry that if you take spiritual path, that we will just be like Arjuna is saying, like a cloud in the sky, like nowhere, no up, no down. No, first thing, you can get benefits for material body and everything so that you can practice very nicely spiritual life. It's very important that our material body be nicely situated. Otherwise, it's very difficult to practice spiritual life if our body is not comfortable. If you have a service to drive from here to Chopati with a car, how you can do this service if the car is not in a good situation? So it has to be proper car. So in the same way, when we start spiritual life, first thing, our situation mentally, on gross level, on subtle level, all these things will balance very nicely. And Krishna will give how much we need to do our service. We don't have to worry about this. And then second thing is this devotion will grow and grow. And then as he was praying these prayers, he became self-realized. And then basically at that point, after a week, it is explained actually, he saw his worshipper Lord Sankarshan. And he saw him face to face. And now we are coming to this part when Lord Sankarshan, when he was chanting this mantra, what Narada Muni gave him, and he became self-realized, and the Lord himself appeared before him. And now in this verse, Lord Sankarshan is giving him spiritual knowledge. So he was saying, you're already very good in bhakti. You understand bhakti, but now I will give you Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means basically Lord Sankarshan, he represents Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means a knowledge of relationship between Jiva, the Lord, and all the energies, actually material world that we are situated here. So if you have a proper understanding what is the relationship between of these, then we can come to the level of pure devotional service. Otherwise, if something is wrong here in this basic understanding, our understanding of pure devotional service will be completely wrong. This is actually what he's trying to teach him. Because by bhakti itself, like we said a few times already, is completely independent. There's no need for nothing. But because we are still conditioned, we need knowledge. Because bhakti will work whether we know it or we don't know it. It's not dependent on our knowledge. Like for instance, if you chant your japa will purify your heart, it will purify your mind, everything will work. But the problem is, without knowledge, we will not commit to it. That's the problem. So then we cannot purify our existence completely. Like for instance, if you go to a doctor and you have some problem, he will give you a medicine. And he will not explain, oh, these herbs are inside, especially from here that but he will give you actually knowledge how this will treat you. So then you commit yourself to all the time, every day, take the tablet, take the medicine. And then gradually you will get purified. So similarly, while we are in conditioned body, We need jnana. We need knowledge. Because we are still thinking we are this body. And then on the basis of this idea, we can go again to material desire, to fulfill our material desires, to go to material life. But when you know your identity is spiritual, then this jnana is not so much more important anymore. Because you know, I'm spirit soul and I'm part of parcel of Krishna. Nothing can distract me from the service to Krishna. This is the urge. Then this becomes urge. But while we are on this level, this sambandha jnana is very, very important. And here Sankarshan is basically giving this knowledge to Chitraketu now, because he said, okay, you practice bhakti, you're doing all this, but now support it with a solid foundation of this knowledge. So it's a safety net. You cannot fall back. You can always, whatever happens, you can return your consciousness back to me. And here in this purport, it was a very long purport, but it was explaining basics concepts of Sambandha Jnana, you know? Basics concepts are like we said, there is God, there is Jiva, and there is material world. And he's saying this material world is actually not, it's illusion and not illusion at the same time. So how to understand this? It's how you say, it's real, but it's not factual. This everything is real, but it's not factual. So how to understand this? So this is a place actually, most of people who wants to get liberation, they're thinking we have to go from this place. Like, we have to leave this place to come to the level of Brahman. But actually, by Sambandha Gyan, you will understand that we are already situated in liberated platform. All this around us is Brahman. It's inferior Brahman. It's not superior Brahman. It has no consciousness, but everything is eternal. But what is not eternal are these forms around us. So basically, this table is temporary manifestation here. But the atoms that are inside of this table, they are eternal. They cannot be destroyed. They are never they're just manifested when Lord Vishnu breathes out. All these Mahatattva, all these elements, atoms, they come. But they're never destroyed. So actually, they are Brahman. Everything that is around us, these atoms, they are Brahman. So we are already in this liberated platform. Just our consciousness is not liberated. We misuse this. This table is used to put Srimad Bhagavatam, and no one has a problem with this. So it serves proper, like a, how you say, a service. But if I try to take this table with me after I go, then the boys, they will, hey, what are you doing? Hey, you cannot do this, you know? So similarly, if you use everything in this world in connection with service to Krishna, there is no problem. We are liberated. We are on liberated platform. But if we see anything around us and we try to use it for our own sense gratification, then we are in trouble. Then we are bound by karma. Then we get into so much trouble. But otherwise, then there is no problem whatsoever. We don't have to go somewhere. Consciousness, like liberation, is not a place of some situation. It's a place of consciousness. So if we can change this consciousness here, this is actually what we are doing. It's like a classroom, basically. You know, we are learning how to, when we go back to the spiritual world, how to see everything in connection with Krishna. You know, there's a many pastimes. What is this? When Krishna comes, there is this demon. He tries to, this monkey demon. Huh? Yeah. So he comes into Rasa Lila and he sees beautiful gopis and everything, and he starts to kidnap them. He wants to have his own Rasa Lila, you know? So not to make this mistake, here we have to first learn how to do everything around us and make it in connection with Krishna. Then when we change this consciousness, then when we go to the spiritual world, there'll be no problem. We will not make no offenses and nothing like this. At the same time, in the spiritual world, everything is conscious. The table is conscious, the mic is conscious. So they will not like if you misuse it. So that's why this is called inferior Brahman. It has no consciousness. So you can misuse it. You will get reactions, but this inferior Brahman doesn't mind, you know. But actually, in reality, it's a place for training. Just like sometimes the pilots, before they go to the plane and they go fly away, they have many simulations. If you go to their cockpit, everything, they have these windows and everything looks real, you know. They have to press, there is some trouble. They have to press, they have to know what to do in which situation. So only after this training in this illusionary situation, when they get proper training and consciousness, then they can go and fly their own plane. Similarly, in this world, if we can learn how to use, be trained how to use everything in connection with Krishna, then we can go to the spiritual world, and then we can remain there. We will never go back again. We can develop prema. This is the point, actually, what Sambandha Jnana is giving. How to develop pure devotional service in this environment. This is a very important point. And then it is all explained. There are two vastus. Okay. Maybe there is time for if someone has a question or something, because now it's 5 to 9. So I don't go too much. Okay. So I can, there are like, there was in purport, there was this also that explained two vastus, two essential things. So it was explaining there is a spiritual reality and then is material reality. Material reality we were discussing now. So actually everything is, how you say, everything is temporary, but it's not illusionary. This is what we have to understand from this. It becomes illusion when you use it for sense gratification. It becomes real, and you have real effect to your soul. You are progressing when you use it for Krishna. So this is how it's explained. This vidya and avidya can be properly used. And then first, this vastu is actually spiritual, which is not illusionary, which is always like a real thing. And it is explained as Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. So in the spiritual world, that when Krishna is dealing with his spiritual energy, he's called Bhagavan. When he's dealing with material energy, he's called as Paramatma and Bhagavan. In the spiritual world, there is no Paramatma and there is no Bhagavan. Actually, Paramatma and Bhagavan, they are concepts of material world. They're not material themselves, but they're concepts of material world. If you try to understand Bhagavan from this conditioned view, you can understand him as all pervading qualities which are around us. Or you can understand him as a God who is super soul, controlling each and every aspect of this universe. But this is only seeing him in connection with this material world. It's not with how we say, with the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there is only Bhagavan. Devotees who are there, they're not dealing with Paramatma and Brahman. Paramatma and Brahman are only given in this situation. So the things that, like for instance, now we have Bhagavatam class, and it's called direct devotional service. But as soon as we close the Bhagavatam, each and every one goes to their specific duties, according to their conditioned nature, according to their bodies. So in order not to get distracted by material energy, then you have to connect these things with Brahman and Paramatma. You have to see how Krishna is behind these things that you wanna take. You know that you have such a big desire to have this thing. Actually, why you want this thing? Because Krishna, quality of Krishna is there. Like for instance, Prabhuji, you have this chadar. You know, why did you put this chadar on you? Because it's cold and the chadar gives warmth. But from where is this quality of warmth coming? This is actually Krishna's quality in the form of Brahman. And these atoms, they come now because this is also atoms. But this table has no quality of warmth. So when you start to see like this, then you start to realize Krishna is actually everywhere around us. But we don't stop at this level, Brahman. We see from Bhagavan are coming these qualities. Krishna can embrace me. This is the real warmth. So if I take this chadar, I can think, oh, it's Krishna's embrace, actually, what it is. But other people on material level, they will just deal on this, they will see it as material. So they will not get, how we say, devotional credit for it. But we as devotees, we have to see it, although it's on the level of this inferior Brahman, we have to see it in connection with Bhagavan. Just like Prabhupada is giving example, like sometimes you have lots of shoes, outside. And the mother, she's looking for her child, and she don't know where is the child, and she's in a panic. Where is my child? Where is my child? And then she sees the shoes, and immediately, she immediately becomes special. My child is here. She's not lost. Nothing happened bad. But did she saw a child? She never saw a child. She just saw the shoes. So in the similar way, pure devotees in this world, they see all these things, what they see around, they're reminded about Krishna. They're not, the consciousness doesn't stay on this level. Although they're dealing with everything, with material things, but they see everything in connection with Krishna, and therefore they're always on spiritual platform. They never fall down. And this is actually what Sambandha Jnana can give us. We go gradually, we start to understand these things. So things that we have distractions in our spiritual life, we try to see that actually how Brahman and Paramatma can connect this to Bhagavan. So this is a Sambandha Gyan gradually, and then we started to practice, and ultimately we will come to the level of relishing the holy name, to the level of prema. So I will stop here, if that's okay with you. And if someone has some question, if not, there is no problem. Yeah. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Chanitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bom. Thank you.